It's Saturday, November 2, 2019, and this is Globespan 24x7 Week in Review. My name is Samuel Suknandan. We'll take a look at some of the major stories for the week, beginning Monday, October 28 to Friday, November 1, 2019. We start off by telling you that while many persons across the country were celebrating the Festival of Lights, Diwali, last weekend tragedy struck the homes of two families at Peters Hall on the east bank of Demerara when a fire erupted, completely destroying one house and partially damaging another. Abel Harris brings us that report.
Several people are now homeless after a fire destroyed their homes in a fire on late Sunday evening at Peters Hall, east bank Demerara. The fire started at lot 28 School Street, Peters Hall, which was separated into several apartments shared by several family members. A different abled woman aged 65 and a 79-year-old woman were occupants of that house. A relative who lives down the woman, Dekali Prasad, spoke with Globespan 24x7 at the scene.
Me left my niece was about 7:30. I was soon coming with my mother in the wheelchair. Me left she right to car now. Me care she in the yard, right? Me left she there. Me time now. Me Miss Big Sister had a fire with the house about. And my nephew running. So when he run, I try to go she running inside. And my nephew pull she out and pull my auntie out. You understand? And that is it.
Prasad said the house was occupied by her mother, Leloti Prasad, who owns the house, her aunt, Kalawati Budram, 65, and two nephews. She told this newscast that the fire may have started from the meter. According to her, the meter has been sparking for a number of days.
And gold, money, jewelry, everything gone up, everything. And me and my mother NIS book, old age pension book, ID, everything for every damage.
Spring tide has reached the doorsteps of residents in areas along Columbia to Fairfield, Myconi, but works are being undertaken to reduce the possibility of widespread flooding. We bring you that story from Tuesday.
The Public Infrastructure Ministry has confirmed that residents in residential areas in Myconi have been affected by the current spring tide. As such, teams have been dispatched to the affected areas to effect emergency works to the Danzig foreshore before the next high tide. Since the last period of spring tide that ended October 2, the Public Infrastructure Ministry has spearheaded emergency works to arrest the breaches in the Danzig to Fairfield area. The ministry said that two contractors, BK International and ANS General Contractors Inc., were hired to implement corrective measures. To date, more than 6,000 tons of stone has been delivered to strengthen the severely impacted foreshore. Already, a 100-meter of riprap sea defense structure was constructed at Fairfield. With regards to the Bellamy Canal that runs parallel to the foreshore and Atlantic Ocean, 4 diesel pumps were immediately put in place to facilitate a maximum drawdown. The National Drainage and Irrigation Authority have positioned the 2 pumps in Cottage and the latter in Danzig to remove the floodwater. Despite these efforts and the works done at the foreshore during the last spring tide, certain factors are hindering the works being undertaken. Contractors are working gradually inwards from both eastern and western ends of the breaches due to limited access to the breach sites. To compound the issue, the team has lost 4 barges and 1 tugboat which sank at the foreshore while traversing the sea to deliver much-needed boulders to the critical sites. Despite these challenges, the emergency works are continuing along the foreshore in Myconi in the face of the current spring tide. Government has issued advisories and warning to the residents along the coastal belt of Regions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, while the Civil Defense Commission continues to monitor the situation at hand. The spring tide continues Monday, October 28, 2019 at 3:43 hours. It will rise to a height of 3.15 meters, and at 16:13 hours, it will rise to a height of 3.31 meters. October 29, 2019 at 4:29 hours, it will rise to a height of 3.11 meters, and at 16:52 hours, it will rise to a height of 3.25 meters. On Wednesday, October 30, 2019, at 5:14 hours, it will rise to a meter of 3.1 meters, and at 17:32 hours, it will rise to a height of 3.12 meters. For Globespan 24x7 News, Abel Harris.
his party and the coalition as a whole will ensure this time around that they do more rigid checks on candidates that they put up for election. The APNU leader statement was made in light of the decision taken by former Member of Parliament Charandas Prasad, who voted in favor of a no-confidence motion that toppled his very administration.
We will have more careful checks. The question of dual citizenship has been settled. It is already a part of our application form, and we would like to see proof. And we would ask for, personal interviews so that we can be reassured that the person supports the policy. Because people vote for the coalition, for the parties, the APNU or the AFC, on the basis of the policies that they promise to implement. And we have to get some assurance that the persons who are likely to be elected will support those policies. We also are seeking double assurance by ensuring that the constituents from the area from which that person comes know the person and support. If they feel that he is a trickster or a person of low integrity, they would say we cannot support that person. But the people must be the judge.
Meanwhile, the president was asked to respond to critics who have publicly stated their dissatisfaction with the way he handled certain issues deriving from within his government. Some have stated that the president is too laid back and should have been at the forefront to ensure that things are handled efficiently.
I do not believe that my critics would find agreement among my ministers. I'm a very strong leader, and I'm not laid back at all. I insist on high standards, high quality performance, and I am behind my ministers, behind my officials, to ensure that they deliver the best quality service. Every month, I meet all of the permanent secretaries here so that they can report on the performance of their ministries. Every week, I meet my ministers. Every week, I meet my security officers. And most of the changes you see being implemented in some of these sectors are the result of my initiative. I'm not laid back at all. I am a hard taskmaster, and I ensure that everything that is done by this government is done to the satisfaction of the Guyanese people.
So why then do you think there is that perception?
I work quietly, but there's a saying in West Africa, speak softly and carry a big stick. I speak softly, but I carry a big stick. I ensure that my policies are implemented. And if you see an operation being launched at sea or on the border, it is not done because I'm laid back. If you see a youth corps being opened at Kurukuru, it's not because I'm laid back. If you see 30 buses on the road, it's not because I'm laid back. There's a powerhouse called David Granger who ensures that this government is working for the people. That's what happens. Quietly, but my work gets done. And I insist that my work gets done. My ministers know that if they do not do their work, they'll hear from me.
With these qualities, the head of state assured Guyanese will benefit tremendously through real achievable and sustainable development initiatives that will create a bright future for the country. On Tuesday, we reported that a meeting between the Ghana Agricultural and General Workers Union, GAWU, and the National Association of Agricultural, Commercial and Industrial Employees, NASI, and the Ghana Sugar Corporation, Gaisuku, ended prematurely after officials from both unions pinned placards to their chest, which caused officials of the corporation to abandon the meeting. Here's more.
Both trade unions say the demand by the corporation to put away slogans was an inconsiderate and an unreasonable request. The meeting had representatives from both unions, along with Gaisuku's Chief Executive Dr. Harold Javis Jr. and Finance and Marketing Director Paul Bim, among others. The union's delegation included 30 workers and union officials who had attached to their clothing small placards highlighting the need for the corporation to grant a wage or salary increase to sugar workers. But This didn't sit well with the Gaisuco officials, as they objected to it, contending that the placards were not allowed on the premises. And since the union reps insisted in keeping them on, the meeting was abandoned. GAU says it is disheartening for them to recognize that a state-owned company is seeking to apparently muzzle the expression of its workers. Open quote. Gaisuco nevertheless decided to disregard our sincere and valid contentions and went on to abandon the meeting. Our unions, as concerned stakeholders, were eager to engage the corporation on its plan, and cancellation of the meeting by the state-owned company was an unfortunate development, end of quote, according to the union. Both teams had agreed on meeting over the fact that sugar workers' pay has remained unchanged since 2014, and the aim was to review it. GAU contends that official statistics has confirmed that the cost of food, for instance, has risen by 17%, with several staple food items going up in excess of 20%. At the same time, workers have confronted several other increases through the imposition of taxes and hiking of tariff fees. Also, several long-standing conditions of work enjoyed by sugar workers have simply been ignored by the current management of Gaisuco, the union posited. Despite the challenges, GAU and NASI have committed to continuing to advance its demands in the coming times regarding a pay rise to workers in the sugar industry. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
While speaking at the 175th anniversary General Assembly of Queen's College on Tuesday, said that Ghana must transcend all revolutions to realize its truest potential as a global leader in education. More in this Kingsley Bryan report.
The head of state delivered the feature address at the General Assembly of Queen's College in commemoration of the nation's top school's 175th anniversary. At this juncture, the president said Ghana's development is hinging on the country's ability to forge ahead despite its challenges, especially in the area of education.
Ghana must not allow itself to be handicapped. We must move ahead or we will be left behind. Science and technology education is essential to mastering the skills needed for establishing knowledge-based industries and for modernization. There is good reason to continue to emphasize this form of education. It is essential to acquire the skills necessary for social, economic, and industrial transformation, and which will play a more transformative role in making Ghana internationally competitive.
According to President Granger, a developed STEM program also allows for a more technologically advanced and well-positioned Guyanese workforce. He said while many advancements have been made, Ghana should still be in building mode to effect true transformation.
Ghana still needs and will continue to need new skills to populate the occupations in the green environment, in the petroleum sector, and in the digital economic sector. Ghana will need an A to Z of scientists, from agronomists and architects and biologists and botanists, chemists, doctors, engineers, all the way down to physicists and zoologists. We need them all. We need you all if we are going to transform this country.
To this end, President Granger reiterated his plan to have a decade of development, which will allow for much emphasis to be placed on the education sector. He also noted that free education is not a governmental invention, but a constitutional injection, which for too long has been ignored and must be restored during this decade. He, however, maintained that this emphasis will not reduce investment from the other sectors.
This emphasis, however, will not diminish attention in the humanities, particularly in the social sciences. The country will continue to need accountants, attorneys, bankers, economists, historians, why not, and managers.
President Granger further added that with the advent of STEM disciplines, Ghana is now well poised to take advantage of the technological breakthroughs catered to our national development. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Youth was remanded to the Juvenile Holding Center on Tuesday after he was charged with the murder of a Guyana Defense Force soldier, Elijah Chesney. The police said that the teenager appeared before Magistrate Delon Bess at the Georgetown Magistrates Court and was not required to plead to the indictable charge, which alleged that he murdered Chesney, 18. The incident is said to have occurred during the course of a robbery on October 14, 2019. Chesney, who lived at D Field Safari, Greater Georgetown, was found clad in white t-shirt, black pants and blue hoodie along with a white hat. His body bore 2 suspected gunshot wounds. Bess will return to court on November 18. Now that the Ghana Elections Commission GCOM has moved to publish the list for the recent house-to-house registration, opposition People's Progressive Party PPP is now claiming that the list contains several mistakes, and as such, the party is calling for it to be corrected. More in this report from Wednesday.
In a strongly worded statement on Tuesday, the PPP said what is more upsetting is the fact that GCOM has now called Guyanese to check their names on that list. More than 300,000 Guyanese were registered during the exercise and would therefore have to visit various GCOM offices to do so. The party noted that it made checks and did its own investigations and made some astonishing discoveries. According to the PPP, there are thousands of names duplicated on the preliminary list of electors and thousands of persons who are under the voting age of 18. Open quote, our investigations would have found too that dozens of persons listed as new registrants cannot be found at the addresses listed, and this is a serious cause for concern, fueling the worry that there are many non-existent persons on the list published by GCOM. End of quote, according to the statement. The PPP also maintained that house-to-house registrants list is not a supplementary list to the PLE and cannot be used during a claims and objections exercise. There is no provisions in the laws of Ghana to authorize the publication of a duplicate list that does not originate from the National Register of Registrants database, the party noted. According to the PPP, the house-to-house registration process was flawed from the beginning, and any attempt to merge the data from that process with the National Register of Registrants can compromise the entire database. The PPP called on GCOM to immediately withdraw the house-to-house registrants list and continue with the ongoing claims and objections exercise. The Ghana Elections Commission has revealed that the ongoing claims and objection exercise has seen a total of 3,924 new persons already since the exercise began at the beginning of this month. GCOM's Public Relations Officer Yolanda Ward informed media operatives that the Commission has completed 17,243 transactions so far, of which 9,516 are transfers. The Commission also informed that there were 1,672 corrections, 1,627 replacements, 472 photo retakes, and 32 objections recorded during the exercise as well. The ongoing claims and objection period comes to an end on November 11, 2019. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Good evening, this is Globespan 24x7 News Weekend Review for October 28 to November 1st. And now the news in details. Million more people will be at risk of coastal flooding from climate-driven sea level rise later this century. This is according to new research conducted by Climate Central, a U.S.-based nonprofit news organization. The report comes at a time when many countries across the globe, including Guyana, has been affected by alarmingly higher than usual tides, which has been causing severe flooding in areas that are below sea level. The report said that 190 million people will be living in areas that are projected to be below high tide come 2100. Today, the group calculates roughly 110 million people are presently occupying these lands, protected by walls, embankments, and other coastal defenses, which are currently deteriorating due to massive water pressure, like in the case of the Georgetown seawall. Over the past few months, citizens of Guyana have been greatly affected by the abnormal high tides, which caused unexpected flooding, damage to homes, destroying farmlands, and even killing animals and livestock that were in the affected areas. To date, officials in the country has been working assiduously to find solutions that could help those areas that are being warned of the upcoming high tide warnings in effect. Police reportedly seized over 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and 2 persons have been arrested for possession of narcotics during Operation Strike Back 2 exercise in Port of Spain last night. The police in a statement yesterday said officers searched the area and found 160 grams of marijuana and 130 grams of cocaine. A 30-year-old man was arrested in connection with the finds. Another search, similar in nature, was executed and officers found 14.7 grams of cocaine. A male occupant of the home was arrested for the offense of possession of cocaine for the purpose of trafficking. An additional 75 grams of marijuana was found during a further search of the surrounding areas. The police service in the Twin Island Republic says several other road searches were also carried out and a total of 25 field interviews conducted. A combined weight of 239 grams of marijuana and 144.7 grams of cocaine was seized during the operation. Reports coming out of Bolivia said that 2 people have been killed in clashes between supporters and opponents of President Evo Morales. Tension has been picking up pace leading up to 2 weeks following the disputed presidential election. A report said that the Organization of American States will start an audit of the results on Thursday to decide if the polls should go into a second round. The official results gave Morales a big enough lead over his nearest rival, Carlos Mesa, to win outright in the first round. However, Bolivians say they are suspicious of the initial vote count, which was surprisingly interrupted for 24 hours on election night. 10 days post-election were marred by mass protests, strikes, blockades, and clashes between those backing Morales and those behind Mesa. An international women's midfielder from Jamaica has succumbed to injuries following a stabbing incident in the capital city, Kingston. Police reported that the 20-year-old woman was pronounced dead in the hospital. Officers said the student died after a dispute over a mobile phone at about 8:50 local time on Thursday. A woman has been arrested, and Clark, who played for Waterhouse FC, scored on her international debut in September's 12-1 win over Cuba in the Olympic qualifiers. In a statement to the BBC Sport, Jamaica Football Federation President Michael Ricketts said that the JFF is deeply saddened by the untimely passing of Clark. He said that she was someone who showed much promise, not just as a player, but as a person. Central-left opposition candidate Alberto Fernandez has been elected president of Argentina in a vote dominated by economic concerns. Mr. Fernandez, 60, got more than 45% of the vote needed to win, beating conservative incumbent. Crowds gathered at Mr. Fernandez election headquarters to celebrate the result of Sunday's poll. The vote was held amid an economic crisis that has left a third of Argentina's population in poverty. The former president, Cristina Fernandez, 66, will now become vice president in Mr. Fernandez's administration. She is said to have played a key role in Mr. Fernandez's electoral triumph. Mr. Marquis, 60, had trailed behind his challenger in pre-election polls and was trounced by the opposition in primary elections in August. He conceded defeat on Sunday night, congratulating his political rival. U.S. military has reported that 2 men were captured during the U.S. military's raid on Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's hideout in Syria and are currently in U.S. custody. The Pentagon made the report, and the Joint Chief of Staff chairman said the 2 are now in a secured facility, and reports stated that the General Mark Milley also announced that Baghdadi's remains had been disposed of and there were currently no plans to share footage of his death. It is alleged that Baghdadi killed himself during the raid, the U.S. military says. The General Milley said that Baghdadi's remains were transported to a secure facility to confirm his identity with forensic DNA testing, and disposal of his remains has been done. Meanwhile, asked about video evidence, General Milley said photos and videos were going through a declassification process. President Donald Trump said that some footage might be released. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently met with Governor General Julie Payette to discuss what he intends to form into government. The party entered the campaign with 177 seats and will now need opposition support to pass legislations in Parliament. Trudeau's Liberal won 157 seats in last week's federal election, 13 short of a majority. With a minority government, Trudeau's government will first have to survive a confidence vote on speech laying out his plans for governing. Trudeau and Payette were expected to talk at their meeting about a time for Parliament to reconvene, among other issues involved in the process of forming government. Since the meeting, the Prime Minister's office hasn't released any details about what transpired during the meeting. Following a vote in the UK Parliament shutting down Boris Johnson's call for early election, a new vote has cleared its first Commons hurdle as MPs backed the Prime Minister's decision without a fuss. But the Parliament will continue to debate and vote later on amendments, including a Labour proposal to change the date to December 9th. The Prime Minister can only hold an election with the support of the Member of Parliaments who have blocked it 3 times already. Meanwhile, efforts by the opposition MPs to lower the voting age to 16 and allow EU nationals to take part have failed. A report said that the proposed changes to the PM's early election bill to extend voting rights were not selected for debate by the Deputy Speaker despite enjoying cross. Lebanon's Prime Minister has announced his resignation owing to protests that have engrossed the country for almost 2 weeks. The Prime Minister said Lebanon had reached a deadlock and needed a shock to break the crisis, to which end he made this decision, and his announcement was met with cheers from protesters. The mass protest began against now-scrapped plans to tax WhatsApp calls, but quickly widened to target political corruption and economic turmoil. Lebanon has one of the highest debt levels in the world. The protests have led to a 10-day closure of banks, with many other offices, schools and universities also shut down. Officials said that 5 million masks are being distributed at schools in India's capital, Delhi, after pollution made their air so toxic officials were forced to declare a public health emergency. The Supreme Court mandated panel imposed several restrictions in the city and 2 neighboring states as air quality deteriorated to severe levels. Reports are that dangerous particles level in the air are about 20 times the WHO maximum. Meanwhile, city schools have also been closed until at least next Tuesday. All construction has been halted for a week and fireworks have been banned. From Monday, the city will introduce a temporary scheme so that only cars with odd or even numbered license plates can drive on given days in a bid to cut traffic pollution. Delhi's Chief Minister of Health said the city had been turned into a gas chamber. Globespan 24x7 News will give you an update on this story as details emerge. Ethiopian media has reported that some 78 people were killed in the violence which hit the country last week. This is according to the Prime Minister's press secretary. The minister said the security forces had arrested more than 400 people in connection with the killings and the destruction of properties. Reports stated that the violence broke out after an influential activist said on Facebook that the government was trying to endanger his life by removing his bodyguards. The government has denied the allegations. The press secretary said the violence had an ethnic and religious dimension to it and had been worsened by the involvement of forces that pushed to create a climate of fear and hopelessness. Police in the region, which was badly affected by the violence, had previously said that some 68 people had been killed. And 74 people have died after a train in Pakistan caught fire in the middle of its journey. Railway Minister Sheikh Rashid Ahmed said the fire started with a gas cylinder which passengers were using to cook breakfast on board exploded. The huge blaze spread to at least 3 carriages. Officials in local media said many of the victims died as they tried to jump off the burning train. Some 40 people have been reportedly injured as well. Officials say the number of victims may still rise. And that has ended news in the region and around the world. Let's turn our attention to tech news with Kumar Doshi. Whitney Prasad saying have a great weekend.
Thank you, Whitney. Namaste, salam, and good day to everyone. This is TechBeat on Globespan 24x7. Today, let's look at cloud gaming. Cloud gaming is a method of playing video games on a remote hardware, typically in the form of servers on the internet or cloud. Rather than downloading and playing a game on your system or installing it via physical media and playing it locally, cloud gaming relies on internet streaming to deliver games on your device of choice. It means that games reside on a cloud server rather than on the gamer's computer or device. The gamer enters the game by installing a client program that can access the server where the games are running. It's just like streaming video on demand. The user will have a library of games that will be on the server rather than on the device, where he or she can choose any of the game and start playing it in high quality regardless of hardware of device. Google and Xbox from Microsoft are two big players in the cloud gaming development. Sony is soon going to join the party. Cloud gaming has a lot of benefits. The industry-level security used by cloud computing companies prevent external interruptions such as hacking. The information is stored inside a virtual storage space, which makes the platform safer than traditional applications. Using a highly scalable cloud platform, high-end games can be played even on low-end machines. The limitation caused by memory requirements, graphic capacity, and processing power diminishes with cloud solutions and thus provides the user with an exceptional gaming experience. Cloud gaming will require a subscription that will help to drive down the cost as compared to traditional games, where the user is required to buy the gaming CD or download it from App Store. Cloud gaming will not eat up precious storage on your device since the games will be on the servers. Cloud gaming will also prevent piracy. Cloud provides the gamers the choice to play multiple games at a time. This helps the companies to generate more revenue and gamers to get a delighting experience. There are a few cons of cloud gaming. Just as videos we watch on YouTube and Netflix are compressed to help them take less bandwidth, the videos you receive from cloud gaming service is compressed. It won't be as sharp and highly detailed as would be rendered on a high-end gaming PC. Games can react to your actions much more quickly when you're running it locally on a computer. There will be some latency in cloud gaming. You are also at the mercy of your internet service provider when using cloud gaming service. If you lose your internet, you are left without any way to play the games you purchased. If your internet speed is running particularly slow someday, you could see a decrease in image quality. Cloud gaming is still under testing and development phase, so these cons will be fixed as development continues. We could see cloud gaming in full swing within the next 5 years, as the experts say. That wraps up for TechBeat for today. I'm Kumar Doshi bringing tech news from India. Back to our studio in Guyana for more news to come. Thank you.
The chair of the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, retired Justice Claudette Singh, to remove the names of persons who have not uplifted their identification cards is not sitting well with the opposition People's Progressive Party. In fact, the General Secretary of the party, Boris Johnsons, went on for quite some time during his weekly press conference to argue that the decision is illegal.
This is the latest manifestation of these acts of desperation. The proposal by the APNU commissioners to strike off the name of the voters from the national, from the OLE, the official list of electors, if they do not pick up their ID cards. Now, this is patently illegal. Your collection of an ID card to losing your right to vote is an affront to Guyana, to Guyanese. It's illegal, and we will never allow it to stand. And all of those people who say that they believe that, you know, they hold the right to vote sacred, all of these parties, the small parties and civil society, I hope they stand up on this one.
Jagdeo said now that such a major decision has been made, it is time for the GCOM chairwoman to speak. The retired judge had told sections of the media that she will speak to the press when major decisions are made. Her comments come after the opposition leader had urged her to speak to issues and decisions taken by GCOM so as to provide some level of clarity to the general public.
Her decision to support the APNU proposal to remove people's names from the voters list because they did not pick up their ID card cannot be explained. And I hope that whenever, because she said when decisions are made, I saw her interview with Kaitshur News, she said when decisions are made, she will speak with the press. Well, a decision has been made here, and we'd like her to explain this decision. Now that a decision has been made by the Commission, well, at least from what, I'm not even sure that that decision is made, because that's what we heard from the commissioners. But when she confirms this, she needs to answer why, in this case, she wants to, or she's sided with the three commissioners in a process that will disenfranchise thousands of Ghanaians and would be illegal if they don't pick up their ID cards, which is not a requirement to vote. It's so simple, I don't understand how this decision will ever stand.
The opposition leader also referred to a previous matter of a similar nature which was brought up for discussion during the time of former GCOM chair Dr. Steve Surajbali sometime in 2011.
43,187 cards were still not collected. He stressed that these are not voting cards and pointed out that a constitutional requirement to vote is to be registered, not necessarily to be in possession of an identification card. This matter was dealt with in the past by GCOM. It's in the newspapers here. And at that time, 43,000 people did not pick up their ID cards. Now it's 28,000. But they didn't lose the right to vote, which is a sacred right. And the Chief Justice herself, in her ruling, recent ruling, pointed out in 121 of the ruling section, the right to be registered to vote and the right to vote are sacrosanct and fundamental. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, to which Guyana has acceded and which is incorporated into our Constitution, establishes the right to vote as a matter of international human rights law and provides that every citizen has a right to vote. That is the ruling of the Chief Justice recently.
But Jagdeo did not stop there. He went on to make further reference to the Chief Justice's ruling, which highlighted the case that was handled by the very GCOM chair when she sat on the bench.
As you know, yes, the Pereira matter was the two political parties before the 1997 elections agreed that we will use the national identification form at the polling places as the only means to identify voters. After they lost the elections, they went and challenged that agreement that they had with between the two parties. And Justice Claudette Singh said, basically, she shortened the term, the PPP's term in office, and ruled that the ID card was not a requirement to vote. That was Claudette Singh's ruling. But she said in...
That was opposition leader Bharat Jagdeo at his weekly press conference on Wednesday. Members of the STEM Ghana Robotics team that recently participated in the first global sponsored World Robotics Championship in Dubai were on Wednesday honored with a small ceremony hosted by the First Lady Sandra Granger at the Brili Benab in State House. More in this report.
Team Guyana overcame tremendous challenges to end the three-day global tournament with 6 victories and 3 losses, which earned them an overall ranking of 39th place out of the 190 countries which took part in the global competition. The ranking means that Ghana finds itself among the elite top 25% teams in world rankings. Given this recent success, the team was treated to an official welcome home ceremony by the First Lady, Sandra Granger, who said she's extremely pleased with the team's performance, as it sends home the fact that the investment in STEM project was worth it.
And we are doubly pleased and thankful because those of us who know that robotics was first introduced in Guyana in August of 2016 by Karen Abrams and her children, Ema, Asher, Caleb, and Joshua. And it was the interest and enthusiasm of the children of it that led to the launch of robotics clubs and the establishment of STEM Guyana.
The First Lady also thanked those who sponsored or supported the team in whatever way. She also praised the team being awarded the Albert Einstein Gold Medal for Excellence. Team Ghana 2019 won the Albert Einstein Gold Medal for Excellence at the first global robotics competition in Dubai. The medal is awarded in gold, silver, and bronze to the teams whose robot performed the best during the first global challenge. It is essentially the top individual team award given by competition judges. Meanwhile, in her remarks, co-founder of STEM Ghana, Ms. Karen Abrams, said she was more so pleased with the positive representation that the team provided to Guyana.
Not only building a remarkable robot and having the wherewithal to devise a great strategy, but displaying professionalism, representing your country well, being a role model for the games, 190 countries. I mean, can y'all dig that? Can you dig it?
Also present at this morning's ceremony were Ministers of Public Communication Cathy Hughes and Education, Dr. Henry, who also commended the team on a job well done. Director of Sports Christopher Jones was also present at the ceremony. A report from the competition's website stated that, open quote, this year the first global organization hosted 190 national teams out of the 195 countries in the world. It was the largest and most competitive global competition to date, and teams which are mentored by large, well-known engineering firms in their home countries often do very well. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Former President Boris Johnsons says that the coalition government peddled lies and misinformation about alleged corruption under the PPPC administration and promised their supporters that persons would be convicted of the crimes that they committed. But according to the now opposition leader, to date, the David Granger-led administration has not found any evidence because it was all lies.
How all the rumors that they spread about us killing young black kids and all of that stuff, they had all the evidence in the past, they were going to convict people. He said, we can't find evidence. No, we can't find evidence. It's rumors. You can't find evidence because a lot of the people that you put on the list are policemen who were killed by the bandits. You're not going to find evidence of PPP doing anything there. They were victims of bandits. Some of them are alive, and that sort of thing. And so this is, you will not find evidence, and your rumors about corruption, that is the reason why we are not finding evidence, because between 2011 to 2050, you think the PPP was stealing the whole of Guyana. 28 billion to 35 billion a year missing, and all that sort of stuff. We now know, you should check the audit report, how many billions are missing now, because when we point out where, they can't up to now point out where these billions were missing from. So that's why you're not finding the evidence, because you were spreading, they sung a good song. They had a good song about corruption, and you know, it was, they would throw people in jail and all of that, and therefore it was very potent. The supporters bought into it. Now, to prove it is something else.
Jagdeo was referring to the president's recent interview on Inside Sources, where the issue of crime was discussed. The opposition leader noted that the most upsetting thing is the president has not outlined any measure to address the crime situation in the country despite the ongoing issues.
You know what he says? Two things he says. Oh, I have a report from a British consultant now, and I have 4 deputy commissioners who were not there before. That's his 2 explanations on the whole crime, how he's addressing crime. I've reformed the police, I have 4 deputy commissioners, and I have a report from somebody from England. This is another evidence of him being aloof. And now you would want to think that a president, when asked one of his first interviews that he's doing, in-depth interview, would want to define his vision for the oil and gas sector. Guess what he spoke about? A sovereign wealth fund that was passed after the no confidence motion, the natural resources fund, that is dominated by the executive president and would have to be repealed and changed. And then he talks about the Department of Energy. These were the 2 things all he had to say. Not anything about local content, how Guyanese will benefit from the sector. He hasn't spoken about protecting Guyanese workers, like those who are working now and are getting, because they're Guyanese, they get a tiny pay, the foreigners are getting a huge pay.
That was opposition leader Boris Johnsons at his most recent press conference. Given the government's intention to completely eliminate the spread of an infection by microfilariasis, an official lymphatic filariasis campaign was launched on Thursday at the Stabroek Market Square with a new treatment regimen being added to combat the disease. Kingsley Bryan tells you more in this report.
This year's lymphatic filariasis elimination campaign officially kicked off at the Stabroek Market Square in Georgetown under the theme, "We Share Because We Care." The government of Guyana, through the Ministry of Public Health, has been embarking on the usual pill distribution campaign to eradicate the disease completely by 2020. This year's regimen will be slightly different, given the addition of a new pill to the treatment. Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Karen Boyle Campbell said while Guyana has been able to hit the 65% coverage in endemic regions, this year's campaign has been strengthened.
We've sort of fortified our arsenal by adding another drug to the regimen, ivermectin. And so when you take the 3 drugs, you're going to be, in essence, covering all possibilities of a wide range of worm infestations, not only the filaria, even scabies and larva migrans, and a whole host of other unwanted or undesirables will be taken care of when you take the medication.
Dr. Boyle Campbell said this year's strategy includes the mass distribution of A-class therapy, which, if done right, can secure better results for Guyana.
And so the question is, we care, and that's why we're sharing. But do you care enough? Do you care enough to accept what's being offered? Once again, let me say, we're poised to reach elimination status come next year if we get it right this year and next year.
The triple drug therapy initiative will shorten the number of years required to take filaria pills. PAHO WHO country representative Dr. William Agro said data has shown that while great strides have been made, there needs to be a complete elimination of the disease.
Gentlemen, the prevalence is falling, but we need to kill it completely.
Minister of Public Health Valda Lawrence, in her remarks, said the campaign is to ensure a comfortable, healthy lifestyle for all Guyanese.
That this is a continuation of the Ministry of Public Health's work to eliminate this dreaded disease from our country.
Minister Lawrence also added that regions 8 and 9 are not significantly affected by the disease, so the focus of the triple drug therapy will be on the remaining 8 regions. To get the ball rolling, both Minister Lawrence and Doctors Agro and Campbell took their pills on site. Lymphatic filariasis is a vector-borne disease caused by parasitic worms spread by mosquitoes. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Police have arrested a third person who was wanted for the brutal piracy attack and murder of 4 quarantined Berbice fishermen between October 5 to 13. We find out more in this report.
As investigations continue into the most recent piracy incident that occurred off the Berbice coast, police have arrested another suspect who is wanted in connection with the gruesome crime. The man, identified as Lennox Grimmond, alias Breeze, was arrested just after noon and taken to the number 51 police station, where he remains in custody after confessing to his role in the deadly piracy attack. Grimmond, whose last address was given as Cromarty Village, East Berbice Quarantine, is the third person to confess to the crime. He is expected to be charged soon. On Wednesday, Suresh Sundat, called Chuchubai, and Narayan Danraj, called Buckman, both from Belvedere Village, East Berbice Quarantine, were charged with the capital offense after confessing participation in the attack Friday last, hours after being arrested. Sundat, 22 years old, and Danraj, 30, told investigators they were part of the 5-man crew which attacked the Sarah 1, aimed at robbing them of their bounty. The other 2 members, O'Brien Fraser, called Shines, and Anoth Budraj, called Andy, are wanted by the police for their role in the attack. Fraser is from Eversham Village in the Quarantine, while Budraj is from Lot 97 Belvedere Village. Both men, according to the police, are 21 years old. The 4-man crew of Marvin Tamasar, called Buddy, Lamar Petrie, Vishnu Siram, called Kevin, all 20 of Miss Phoebe East Berbice Quarantine, and Kowal Kisoon, called Ajay, 36 years old, of Letterkenny Village, recognized the men and put up a resistance. The pirates beat, chopped, and bound the men before throwing them overboard and escaping with their catch and boat engine. Anyone with information that may lead to the arrest of Fraser and Budraj is asked to contact the police on telephone numbers 333-3876, 911, or the nearest police station. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Workers attached to the Blairmont estate downed tools today and took protest action as they called on the management of the Ghana Sugar Corporation and the government to ensure that they receive a rise in pay. Here's that story.
The Ghana Agricultural and General Workers Union, GAU, is maintaining that sugar workers' wages have remained frozen essentially at 2014 levels, and they continue to be burdened by the heavy increases in the cost of living. As such, workers staged a picketing exercise outside the Blairmont Estate Administrative Office today to get that message home to government and the Ghana Sugar Corporation, GAISUCO. The activity saw workers from many sections of the estate taking part, as they called, in a united voice for fair treatment and equity to be shown to them. The workers believe they are the only ones working under the state whose pay levels remain stagnated. During the picketing exercise, the workers said that the denial of pay increases and suspension and ignoring of other long-standing benefits have hurt them and their families greatly. They said that they continue to work hard, and yet for their best efforts, there is really no reward. Further, workers said they were upset to have learned that GAISUCO earlier this week decided to abandon a planned engagement after delegations from the GAU and the NASI attached to their clothing slogans calling for a pay rise. They felt that the corporation's actions were uncalled for, and the unions were merely expressing the views of the workers in a peaceful and sincere manner. They felt that the actions of the state-owned sugar company were high-handed and was intended to shut down the legitimate views of the thousands. Today's activity followed a vigil activity last evening, October 31, held outside of the estate's office. The picketing exercise saw a number of workers taking part as they again called for a pay rise, which they feel should be granted now. The workers, together with the union, continues to reiterate calls for an end to the discriminatory treatment meted out to them as they seek the authorities to do what is right and approve a pay rise. For Globespan 24x7 News, Kingsley Bryan.
On the way on Friday, The Agro-Tourism Expo got underway on Thursday evening at the Othachang Convention Center, with exhibitors from all across Ghana displaying what Ghana has to offer the world as it relates to this sector. The expo continued on Friday, and Globespan 24x7 interacted with some of the exhibitors to better understand their products and challenges. More in this Kingsley Bryan report.
Following the official launch of the exposition on Thursday evening, exhibitors once again assembled at the Othachang Convention Center to interact with the visiting public. Convener of the event, Donald Sinclair, relayed that this year's event is not one to be missed.
Big things downstairs and very creative products out there. This is not something to be missed. For example, tomorrow, Saturday, we have two of our foremost designers, Sonia Noel and Carl Fraser, having a fashion display. That is Saturday night. But Friday and Saturday, a wide range of products, agricultural products, arts, crafts, jewelry, and so on. This is the place to be, Friday and Saturday.
Indeed, the Othachang Convention Center is a hype of activity, resembling a large market day activity with its Guyanese flair and style. There were several booths on display, all offering a variety of products that were produced locally by Guyanese. Speaking with some of the exhibitors, Globespan 24x7 News was able to get a better understanding of what is being offered.
We planned on promoting the coconut industry, right? So we're starting from the initial stages of the farm. You don't want to plant a random coconut tree anymore without knowing its variety, its potential yield. Just like any crop you plant, you look for the best, the sweetest, the biggest, right? So the same principle applied to the coconut tree. So we have promoting coconut seedling nurseries, where you go through a process of selection to get the best coconut plants, right?
The booths were well decorated, and the exhibitors all had a variety of products to showcase that were produced and packaged in Guyana, some in the most ingenious and creative of ways. The expo is open to the public and will conclude on Saturday with a packed program planned for the culmination. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
From all education districts for NGSA, CSEC, CAPE, CPC and TVET institutions such as the Carnegie School of Home Economics and the Government Technical Institute were on Friday honored at the National Award Ceremony hosted by the Ministry of Education. Here's that report.
This is the 23rd such ceremony held to celebrate the accomplishments of students, along with their teachers and parents, and students from as far as Region 2 and 9 were among the dozens honored. Education Minister Dr. Nicolette Henry explained that this year's performance is testimony to the deliberate investments in education by the government to improve the sector.
Our job at the Ministry of Education is to create opportunities across our education system to develop every student to reach their full potential. And that is not only providing education or quality education for a few students at our more prestigious schools, but rather creating opportunities for every child in Guyana. I know this is not easy because it requires a lot of dedication and commitment from all of us to achieve that. Creating opportunities, I believe, is very important for us to groom young Guyanese so that we can secure the future of Guyana.
Chief Education Officer Dr. Marcel Hudson noted that the educational achievements made by junior secondary schools this year are a testimony that the interventions are paying off.
I say junior high schools because we have seen a pattern in the change as to the performance of our children in school. There was a time when the names of the Queenstowns, the Lodge, the Kingston, all those different schools, you may not have heard their names in terms of excellence. But that has changed and will continue to change as we apply ourselves to improving the education system.
Meanwhile, Acting Deputy Chief Education Officer Administration Ingrid Trotman said that the goal of the ministry is to provide affordable, accessible, and quality education for all.
Our core values of excellence, innovation, collaboration, and accountability are foundation of our commitment to help you, the awardees, grow intellectually, personally, professionally, as well as culturally. We are committed to serving you in a manner that challenges you to learn and achieve while supporting and strengthening your ability and capacity to do great things. We are thankful for your confidence in the Ministry of Education, and we pledge to justify that confidence as you continue your education at the tertiary level.
Guyana has achieved the highest pass rate at the CEC level in the Caribbean and Guyana's history. The Caribbean Examination Council has invited 4 students to Grenada to receive awards for best overall performance in the Caribbean in several subject areas. Guyana is set to receive the award for the best school at this year's CSEC examinations due to top CSEC student Rihanna Tony's performance. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Globespan 24x7 News Weekend Review. Remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest news in Guyana, the Caribbean, and around the world. I'm Samuel Suknandan, wishing you a safe and productive week ahead. On behalf of our news and technical team, until next time, do have a pleasant rest of the evening. Goodbye for now.